Hey, District 2 sports fans, it's Gregory here, and I want to tell you about our new sponsorship here. If you're looking to make your business stand out, you've got to check out Chaos Cartel Company. They specialize in custom shirts, hats, tumblers, banners, and so much more. And the best part, there's no minimum order, and their pricing is amazing. I should know because we have a few shirts from them. Whether you're a small business or just looking to get some cool merch, Chaos Cartel Company is here to help. They love working with other businesses to bring your brand to life. If you want to get started, give them a call at 434 489 6123 or shoot them an email at chaoscartel1, and that's the number one, at gmail.com. Chaos Cartel Company, making your business look good, one custom piece at a time.
You are now listening to the District 2 Sports Podcast, available on all your favorite music apps. Like and subscribe.
All right, so District 2 Sports Podcast, and we're excited to welcome back ODAC Commissioner Brad Bankston for his second appearance on the show. Mr. Bankston, you've been a strong leader for one of the nation's top D3 conferences. You continue to guide the ODAC and student athletes with vision and dedication. Welcome back, Commissioner.
Thank you guys for having me. In the esteemed District 2 podcast. I'm excited to be back. I mean, you guys do a wonderful job of covering small college athletics and our footprint, and we deeply appreciate that. So thank you guys for the time.
I think
that sounded a lot like a Chat GPT type of intro there. I mean, was that from the heart there, or was that an automated type of?
Straight from the heart. There's no computer involved in that at all.
Yeah, that's good. Well, nowadays you have to wonder, don't you? You got to wonder.
Exactly. No, I think it's our fourth time, talking with you. I think we talked to you at the Hampton-Sydney game. We talked to you at the ODAC tournament, and we've interviewed you twice now. But looking at last year as a whole, for all the sports, basketball got 4 bids in there. I think girls basketball went deep too. Baseball did really well for Lynchburg and ran off Macon. I mean, how did you see last year? And is there any moments or accomplishments that stood out for you last year?
I think every year is different. You just don't know what you're going to have. I think the one thing you could prove over time is that the league has continually gotten better. And what does better mean? And there's a lot of definitions of that. And I guess you ask what success is at our level. I mean, you always like to see a competitive environment at the league level. So how are you competing against each other? Is it, dog eat dog from one play date to the next? Those are the things that make me happy, because you like to see a strong competitive environment within the league. When you get out, when you have an AQ, when you have the opportunity to have other teams advance, that also is like a feather. It's like, hey, there's another accomplishment that you attribute to the work that our institutions are putting into their athletic department. I mean, they're doing a wonderful job with hiring staff, facilities, resources that are preparing them and their coaches to be able to advance. And then once you get in to have teams advance to a certain stage, there's a level of, credibility from a national perspective that people notice. And, I can think back to probably Virginia Wesleyan in softball is probably our most accomplished program. I mean, they've done a phenomenal job. Brandon Elliott, the head coach there, is an amazing guy, and he's got a ton of energy. He's got that thing firing on all cylinders, and they get that opportunity to do that. And they weren't the precursor, but the sustained excellence that they've had in that program has only bred. I mean, that's not the reason why other people are successful, but you love to see that, and you love to see somebody at that level. I love to see all of our programs advance, but most importantly, I want to see the depth and the growth in the league, and what are we doing internally to help each other reach that. And I think we've been creative with the way we've scheduled. We've allowed each other to have a good competitive environment within the conference, at the same time giving people the opportunity to go to the national tournament. Throw in the fact that last year was the first year that Division III did the NPI, which is, unique to say the least. It was a system called pairwise originally that was used in ice hockey. And I was involved in a committee many years ago before COVID, and just said, hey, I think we should pilot this. We should look at how this might work for all of our other sports. And it took a number of years. I wasn't effective enough to be able to get them to do that prior to COVID, but they did it after COVID, and it's proven to be, I think, a good tool. Now we've just got to figure out, what's the best way to schedule. It used to be strength of schedule was important. You wanted to try to win good games, but you needed to play really high quality games. We're not so sure yet now how that metric's going to work and what that's going to look like for at-large bids. So we went into a new system last year, scheduling the old way, which is interesting, right? You don't really kind of know the game. I'm not sure anybody's figured out the game yet, and I think our coaches and our athletic directors are continuing to work on it. So depth for me is success. A lot of great stories. There's always good stories. There's good stories, in the bottom third of the league and the accomplishments that people are making. So I just super honored to be able to work with such a great group of schools.
And Mr. Bankston, obviously, one of our highlights, that we got to experience was being able to go to the ODAC tournament out there in Salem, and then going to the NCAA first round or second round game at Hampden-Sydney was also a great experience. But I don't know how traveling to these games really works for you. How, if there's like a hierarchy of games that you plan on going to, but any specific like games or moments that really stood out to you in that 24-25 season?
I don't have a hierarchy of games. I make sure that I try to make every championship event. So it doesn't matter if it's, the third round, the last round of tennis and the first round of basketball. If I'm able and available, I try to get out. We try to do that with all of our staff. One of the things that stands out to me, and I'm at every championship, and if I don't hand out the trophy, it's because I'm at another one that day. Our men's tennis championship this past year, Averett University beat Washington and Lee men in the singles and doubles, the final for their team championship, and that was a really cool environment to be in. And it was a small crowd, but the level of intensity and tension that was involved in that match, coming down to the fifth, I think it was the fifth seed, the fifth flight singles, that was cool to watch. And the interesting part is I was splitting time that day because we had multiple things going on. WNL has a great deal of success, and I had come down from another event I was at on campus and walked down to watch the end of the men's tennis match, and it was really cool. So, I have the luxury of being able to kind of pick and choose what I'm doing during the year. And before, having kids that were in a lot of different places, I didn't have as much. I didn't have as much opportunity to get out during the regular season as I did before. And now, we're kind of in a situation where we're empty nesters, and our kids are gone. Our oldest son's graduated from college too, and this is going to give me more of a chance, I think, to kind of get out and visit. And the funny thing is, now my wife will go, because before, there were kids stuff going on, and she might stay on the weekend because she works really hard during the week, but she typically had the weekends off, and I was on the road. So yeah, gonna look forward to being able to do that here as we move forward.
And I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit. And I don't know, I think I kind of know the answer I'm going to get, but obviously when it comes to visiting each of your school's campuses, I mean, are there certain locations that stand out to you? Obviously, Hampden-Sydney has a beautiful campus. Washington and Lee out there in Lexington. I mean, what are your thoughts there?
Listen, you're never going to make me pick who has a more beautiful campus in the league. You guys are trying to set me up for failure. I think I will say this. I think our league campuses are picturesque. Doesn't matter where you go. And it's so funny that you mentioned that, because I was in Indianapolis for a meeting on Monday through Wednesday. And when I was at the meeting on Wednesday, I had an individual staffer from the NCAA lean over to me and say, "Hey, you basically ghosted me during the men's volleyball national championship that was held in Salem at Roanoke College." And she had come as a representative because their rep was gone. I think his wife was had just had a baby, so he's on paternity leave, and she comes and fills in. And I was like, "Hey, listen, I had stuff going on. We had a golf championship. I couldn't be there, and JJ covered everything. I'm sure he did a great job." And she said, "Yeah." She said, "If I had known how beautiful," and this fits into your question really well. if I had known how beautiful the campus was at Roanoke College, the expansion of my college choices would have grown exponentially. And I said, well, you just saw one of them. I was like, you haven't had the opportunity to see the rest of them. And so that's an outsider's view of one place and her belief of how cool that was. And they've got a really unique situation. If you've been to Roanoke, the Kreger Center that they built is just a top-notch indoor facility. And the window view from the basketball arena actually looks at the mountains, and of course they were playing the volleyball championship there. And it was nice that she said that. At the same time, it's hard to pick one or the other. My oldest son graduated from W&L, so obviously I've been up there a lot recently over the last couple of years. But I grew up 20 miles away from Hampton-Sydney and spent a ton of time there when I was in high school. So they're all beautiful. That's my answer. They're all beautiful.
It's clearly Eastern Mennonite University where I went to school. So
hey, listen, I was at EMU this spring for our outdoor track championships. They did an unbelievable job hosting the track championship, and so appreciative of Carrie Burt and her group. In fact, I went back and saw a portion of the EMU campus that I had never seen.
Really?
In the spring. They had a rules retreat for their staff, and it was basically, I don't know if it's the seminary building that's at the top of the hill, right?
Yeah.
All the way at the top. It's almost like an observatory kind of area up there. What a beautiful spot. Never been on that part of the campus, but great things and really cool stuff. So I got to show you a little love there, man.
Oh yes, sir. I've been up there in the middle of the night, probably not doing great things, but we won't talk about that. But
that didn't happen at EMU. There's no way
exactly, yeah.
All places. Wow.
Moving on from that, but kind of personally for yourself, when you look back at a calendar year, you're saying, hey, this was a good season or this was a good year for us. What do you look for in that? And then also, after the calendar is over, do you get a chance to kind of relax for a little bit, or is it, hey, on to the next season, or NCAA, committees and whatnot? How do you approach the off seasons as well?
Yeah, I don't have a good serious answer for what was a good year. I think we covered it from a depth perspective. What's a good year for me is I'm at the end and it went well, right? So it's hard for me to process, and I don't think my brain's big enough to go to an event, be responsible for the event, enjoy the event, and then not be worried about what's next, right? So that's kind of my mentality. I don't like it. I'd like to change my mentality, but I'm always kind of, okay, that one's done. It went well. Let's go to the next. And it's unfortunate, but I think it's just kind of the way I'm wired. And I think we're not short-staffed. We're very fortunate to have a good number of people in our office, but we're all so occupied during that period of time. You can't really enjoy it. You enjoy it, but you can't just soak it up. You can't just be there to watch the game, and that's a switch that I can't turn on and off. And I wish I could, because if I could, I think I would probably really be able to answer one of your first questions, which is, what is that thing that stands out to you most? And there are those epic games every now and then that you watch and you think to yourself, wow, that's one for the record books right there. And but you also see some unbelievable moments in games that you think to yourself, wow, and what it's doing is, this whole thing is forging, better people, men and women that are growing in the process of being part of collegiate athletics. And it's a cool thing to watch. That's a good year, right? When you get to the end, everything went well, and you think to yourself, hey, we did a lot, and you know what? There's no downtime, because the summer is full of meetings, and by the time we get through some of the national championships we've hosted in Salem over the years, it's the end of May, first part of June, and people are back on campus going full at it in August. So it basically takes us the middle of June. You take a breath, maybe. I had a couple of meetings where I'm out of town usually during that period of time, and then you just full sprint to get to August, where you're in a position where you feel like you could start the year. And we're there. We're 1 week away from playing games. And I think if you asked our athletic directors, I saw all of them on the screen yesterday. We had an AD meeting, and they look pretty relaxed, but they know what they're getting ready to run into, which is going to be a buzzsaw for the next 10 months. So.
Well, Commissioner, I want to ask you, and maybe it's not at all, but just a curious question. You see on the D1 level, you see where Sankey from the SEC and I've got the Big Ten commissioners, but they kind of make decisions for everyone else, it seems like. On the D3 level, I know there's so many more conferences on the D3 level and a lot of more commissioners. Do you see anything like that at all on the D3 level, or is it kind of all even heeled where everyone's kind of making the same decision, everyone kind of agrees, or what do you see on the D3 level compared to that?
Yeah, the meeting that I was at was a executive committee meeting of the commissioners group. I think there's 5 or 6 of us on that body. There's 42 of us in the group. And then there's a group of athletic directors that serve on an executive committee for the National D3 Athletic Directors Association. That group's probably 12 numbers wise. So there were basically 18 people in the room meeting with the entire governance staff of Division III. And Charlie Baker was there for an hour, right, giving us a briefing on what was going on in the NCAA. That's not the decision-making group. The decision-making group is the 440 or 35 or however many members Division III has now. That's one institution, one vote, and every conference has a vote that's a member, and every school has a vote that's a member. Your vote doesn't weigh more than another, right? You talk about the Division I world where the Power 4 or whatever. Is there a Power 5 anymore? I don't know if the Pac 12, 10, 16, whatever that number is now. I don't know whether that's still a part of that body, but that's not weighted. But influence is weighted. The opportunity to have conversations with people and be involved. And the way you do that is you get involved in the national committee structure and you engage yourself in committee work that does make an influence on the ultimate decision. And a lot of the work, and I've been at the management council level. I won't be at the president's council level because I'll never ascend to that space. But I've been on the management council level, which is the highest kind of governing body other than the president's within the division. And I mean, there's a ton of committee work going on. There's a ton of really quality committee work going on that's actually funneled through the management council. You can question it. You can ask, you can offer an alternative. You can say yes to it. You can say no to it. But you do have a voice. And I think it's important for people to understand that there aren't people behind the scenes pulling levers at the Division III level. There is a concentrated effort collectively as a body to go in the same direction. Now, we're all different. I mean, there's no division larger than Division III. There's also no more diverse division than Division III, even at the Division I level, when you have, the Ohio States of the world, and I would use the Campbell, right? That's a good, maybe a good analogy. Does Campbell have football now? Maybe they have football. I think they do have football. They do, yeah. So maybe Longwood's a good analogy for the Farmville people. I think they have disparity. And there's a lot of disparity and diversity in their group too. I'm not sure it's as diverse as Division III is in the end, and that's hard to kind of keep everybody in a tent. And some of the national conversations over the years since the mid 2000s have been, it's a have and a have not argument, and the haves win and the have nots don't, and whichever category you're in, the deck's stacked against you. And, we've gone around the idea of having subdivisions in Division III. And, okay, well, how do you divide that up? Is that by enrollment? Is that by public and private? Is that by endowment? And, how do you do that? Nobody really could ever come up with a great idea. And it didn't pass. I mean, it was voted on in the mid 2000s. It didn't pass. So I hope we had a really healthy conversation in this meeting about that. And it was intriguing because one of the athletic directors basically said, he uses the word in Division III, he uses the word empathy. And it's interesting because I do think people make an effort to help everyone, and I'm not saying that doesn't happen at the Division I level because I'm not privy to those conversations, but I do see it in Division III. I see it in our own league. That people want, despite the fact they're competitive, they want to win. Despite the fact they want to win, they also, there's an empathy there from a standpoint. That's not sympathy. It's that let's help each other, right? Let's help each other. And that's a cool thing to be a part of. And I'm not sure I'd want to be a part of the other piece that's, step on your neck and not worry about what you're climbing over to get where you're going. And there are people that are wired that way. I'm not one of them.
Well, Commissioner, looking at D1's having the issues with NIL and house settlement, all that good stuff, paying players from the schools. Do you ever foresee D3 ever doing that, or do you think those schools who may do that may just move up to D2 or NAIA, where there's different rules?
Yeah, I think it's a wide variety of choices people make. We've had two schools that have left the league in the last couple of years to go to Division II for various reasons, and that's their choice. And obviously, there's a component of that involves athletic scholarships versus merit-based aid. I don't think you really do more than switch money pots from one to the other, and probably have to put more money in one pot to be competitive at the Division II environment than you do at the Division III. But I mean, there are reasons why people make those choices. At the Division III level, the NIL stuff, you're going to start to see that creep in. I think there are going to be people that have collectives, that they're creative enough and financially means enough to have donors that want to do that. I hope, and there's been some discussion at the divisional level, and there's nothing formally on the table yet, to have some legislation that prohibits collectives, or that at our level wouldn't involve that. And if you ask the common athletic director, I think in our world, they don't want to deal with that. That they've got enough on their plate doing what they're doing, with 25 sports and, a handful of staff that are trying to administratively run an athletic department. I don't know if they want to get in that business. But I also know that, institutions all across the country are keenly aware of enrollment and the demands of enrollment and the driving of enrollment, and the fact that the more students you have, the better off your institution is in the long run. And, how you get those students and retain those students is super important. So, I mean, that's a little bit above my pay grade. What I try to do is create an environment from an athletic perspective that we support our institutions and give them a good environment in which to compete in athletics that is, hopefully free of discrimination and, poor sportsmanship and other things, that your student athletes can excel at their highest level. And hopefully that complements the mission of the institution and allows them to be able to move forward in a successful way. And I think what's going on at the Division I level right now is going to be something that's unsettled for a while. I think the House settlement certainly helped. I think it's put them in a good opportunity to maybe make some progress at the congressional level. You're starting to see the SCORE Act. If you followed kind of the news of what's going on at the congressional level, a lot of feedback in the most recent meeting I was in was like, hey, this is great. If we can get this piece through the House of Representatives, then the Senate has an opportunity to get their hands on it. There's some different opinions of what should happen in the Senate, perhaps than the House, and then maybe you end up with a bill that's actually going to work and help preserve collegiate athletics moving forward. So, we'll see. I wouldn't bet. It would probably the worst thing you could do is ever predict what's going to happen in Washington. So, keep our fingers crossed.
Well, here's the big one. We talked about this. You've seen it on social media. There's been so many different reactions. So I got to ask about this. I think you guys signed a 5-year contract with Flow Sports for the streaming. What went into the decision, and what do you see the biggest benefits for the conference as a whole?
We vetted. I appreciate you asking the question. We vetted the Flow Sports piece for quite some time. Actually, I've been in conversations with Flow for about 2 years. So we had been engaged, not formally, but just had opportunities to have conversations with colleagues that had moved in that direction. I think one of the first was the Landmark Conference, which is kind of north of us, kind of in the Pennsylvania kind of footprint, Maryland footprint a little bit. They had made the move, and then the NUMAC made the move in New England. And I'm, of course, close to both of those colleagues. And we had a lot of conversations about how that had worked for them. And honestly, they felt like it had enhanced their product. And what my hope is that we have two opportunities. One, to put our product on a platform that has a greater reach, perhaps, than just the individuals that know it's there and find it on the conference website or find it on the institutional website to watch the games. I think that's going to help, because we're now part of a group that's got approximately 20 conferences with Divisions 2, 3, and Division 1. Piggybacked on that is this idea that Flow is going to help, and I believe this is going to be true. They're going to help us augment what our sports communication professionals are already doing. So they're going to help us tell our story. And in doing that, they're going to do that on a greater platform than what we're currently doing now. So that's the belief from a delivery perspective, that that's going to be successful. On top of that, the resources that are coming from that agreement are being returned back to the membership. So this isn't something that the conference office is using to pad the pockets of the conference office and to try to do something else. We're returning those resources right back to the institution in a way to not reimburse them, but help them enhance the work that they're doing on the publicity side. So if that's through sports information, if that's through their broadcast, I mean, there are incentives in the contract, not monetarily, but that we have to improve our broadcast quality. So we've got to improve our delivery of frames per second. We have to improve on the number of cameras that we have. We have to improve on the fact that we have to have audio for broadcast instead of just native audio when you don't know anything going on. So you're going to have some creative commentary. I'm going to let that out there for sure. Yeah, you guys need a job. Hey, you probably can farm yourself out and try to get that going. You're going to have some creative commentary, but I hope it's going to make our product better. And in the long run, that's the mission. The mission is to make it better. Flow's going to make us make it better. I mean, we're going to have to from a contractual standpoint. You might not see a lot of change in year one, but you're going to see a lot of changes in year two. There are going to be more camera angles. You know, we've got one school that next year is going to have 5 camera angles in football. Hey, that's a good broadcast, right? And to make the argument that, well, I guess I've read some of the social media comments. I've read some positive social media comments too. I don't know how many positive versus negative. I'm not adding up I don't have the scales of justice. But what I will say is, you know, I do think it's a nominal fee to be able to pay and have access to the entire Flow platform. If you're using the .edu account, if you're a part of a ability to have a .edu account, I think it equates to like $5.99 or $6.50 a month if you want an annual subscription. So, you know, I don't know what you guys did this morning, but I stopped at Sheetz on the way to the office because that's like my regimen. And I walked in and I bought a protein shake, and I think that cost me $4.99. and it was gone in 20 seconds. No, it wasn't gone. It didn't take that long. It took a little bit longer than that. It was probably, I don't know, maybe it was gone in 5 minutes. So I'm not making light of the fact that we're charging people because I don't think that's fair. I do think it's a fair argument for people to make, something that's been free that's now behind a pay-per-view. If you want to watch the games and you don't want to pay for Flow, they are available 24 hours after they're live. So they'll be archived for free, not through Flow on the institutional website. You can go there and watch to your heart's content. That's not a problem at all. So it's not totally restricted. It's restricted for the live portion. They're going to enhance our Chesapeake Bowl series. They're going to help us with production for Chesapeake Bowl series. We think that's awesome. They're trying to own the small college bowl market. They've been super partners so far. Fingers crossed, right? Hadn't done anything yet. The first ball hasn't gone on the ground, or we had no spikes in volleyball because we are going to screw up. I know that. I'm going to go ahead and admit that soon, but we're making every effort not to have that happen to make the product better.
Yeah, and I think my alumni.lynchburg.edu account is probably going to come in handy over the next
your alumni.edu at Lynchburg is going to come in handy, and it's going to work. It's going to work like a charm for you.
Absolutely. Well, yeah. I was going to ask too, in terms of like, you know, who's going to be kind of providing or handling the logistics of like filming these games. I mean, is Flow Sports sending people to each campus, or is it up to the schools to kind of handle that stuff?
It's up to the schools. So, you know, part of the agreement that Flow has is that, you know, basically what we did last year is the same. It's just you need to make effort to have your first years. You need to make effort to have live commentary on the games. That's why I think you're going to have some really interesting commentary, because you're going to have some students, hopefully, that are learning, much like the two of you guys, right, that would enjoy being involved in AV. You may not have a communications office. You may love sports. I've met several kids in my time in the conference office that are just like guys like you, love sports, want to be involved with it, want to talk about it, and want to share their knowledge and want to, you know, hey, listen, line them up. I mean, that would be the first thing I would have done, is send an email out this summer to say, hey, who's interested and wanting to pursue this as an avocation or a vocation, right? And despite the fact you might be an economics major, that doesn't mean you don't like sports, and it doesn't mean like you don't like to, you know, fantasize about being a sports center guy, right? I mean, so I think it's going to be a really good thing in the end, but the lift's going to be on the schools. So, you know, part of our agreement as well is we have some incentive dollars from Flow to help with production quality. So if you need to help improve your camera, if you need a different camera, if you need, a different switcher, if you need a different software to be able to use for your switcher. And then in the end, I do think down the line, there's going to be a standardized platform that hopefully we can use as we move forward, that's going to have consistent graphics and things that we're going to be able to use that are more flow driven, that I think will be able to enhance the broadcast as well. So, I mean, listen, you guys, this is before you. I mean, you were toddlers, but we were taking a computer, JJ Nekoloff in our office, who does an outstanding job in media relations for us and everything else that he does. He would carry a computer from one institution to the next. It had I can't even remember what the video card was. Osprey card is what it was. And we carried a computer around. I think the computer's still in the storage room. We would go from one institution to the next and show them that they could stream games. So that's 18 years ago, right? JJ's been here 20 years ago. That's 18 years ago. We've grown by leaps and bounds 18 years ago to now, to considering the fact that we have automated cameras that are following an algorithm that are showing a game while somebody's up there doing commentary, and we're sending it out to the internet with a computer switching the camera angles, right? That's not always perfect either, but it actually works for the most part. I mean, who'd have thought that, right? Outside of, Greg having the introduction written by AI. I mean, that's who'd have thought that too. But it does fall on them. We will get, that's another caveat in the if I called Flo tomorrow, and I'm going to call Flo not tomorrow, but I'm going to have a conversation with them about, I want to enhance one of our championships in a way that I think people will appreciate it. And I'm not sure which one that's going to be yet, because a lot of it's going to be their help. But camera angles, switching, production quality, to show the investment that Flo's willing to make in us, to improve the product. So I just saw yesterday, I was reading that Flo had a social media post. I think they did a Division II football rankings for the first time ever, So they're starting to get involved in being more content driven when it comes to publicity for the membership that are participating with them, and highlighting Division II football games that are going to be on their platform. So I'm assuming they'll be the same for Division III. I think there'll be a lot of focus on that. I think we're the 9th Division III league now that's going to be a part. We went in with some big hitters. I mean, we went in with some good ones this year with the Northwest, with the OAC. I mean, who can talk about the Purple Gorilla, Mount Union? I mean, it doesn't get any bigger than that in football. And then the UAA. I mean, what a quality group of schools that are going to be participating with Flo. So if you have a Flo account and you're just a D3 junkie, you're going to be able to watch a lot of quality sports and hopefully a lot of quality broadcasts.
Could one of the positive drawbacks, the people saying, hey, I got to pay for the streaming now, I don't want to watch it, I don't want to do this. Could it be that, hey, you know what, you got to go watch them in person now? Maybe that can bring in more dollars as far as paying to get into the game or paying for snacks and whatnot. Could that be one of the positive drawbacks for this too?
It's a good question. I think some of our people don't charge, and so part of the conversation when you have you have this debate about whether you do it or don't, and philosophically there are people on both sides of the aisle to determine, should we or shouldn't we. I think part of it is, do you charge already? So some institutions charge, right? You may charge for men's and women's basketball. You might charge for everything, and that's a tradition that you've carried either prior to joining the league, after you joined the league, a new AD came in, you made those choices. And then there are other schools that say, we're never going to charge. So we went through this conversation, 10 years ago, maybe a little bit shy of this year, 10 years ago, when we talked about, and we've had a conversation about pay-per-view too. People don't remember this, but a number of years ago, maybe 10, we actually were going to charge for our championships, streaming them. There was a guy out of Charlottesville that came in and did some work with us with swimming, with basketball. It was going to be through a platform that you had to pay for. And you're talking about people raising Cain. Now, that was prior to the streaming world existing, right? The idea that I would be paying $15 or whatever we pay for Netflix a month, I'm probably getting a bad deal. Maybe I need to call them and try to do something else. I mean, whatever that is, who'd have thought that 10 years ago, right? So I think as we move forward, you have that discussion. And so we started charging for conference championships. I mean, it is a significant budget line that offsets the expenses that the institutions pay back to the league in dues. And we were charging it for neutral site events all the time because we had to pay for the facility. But it's like, let's charge for everything. We don't charge for quarterfinals. We just charge for semifinals and finals. And again, I mean, it's not an enormous number, but it's a number enough that through the years, you accumulate funding that helps offset the due structure that the institutions pay. So that was a leap for us. That's a leap, just like this is a leap. And there was, there are concepts. I know of one institution. In fact, I think it's public now. I think it was out there that, they're trying to put their toe in the water in this. And instead of just jumping, they're going to start charging for their conference championships, because the logic was you have to pay for it to watch it when you go. Why wouldn't you pay for it if you watched it at home? So will it drive more people? I don't know. I hope it does. But I don't think, and this is just me, I don't think people make, and I'm not a social psychiatrist, right? So I have no qualifications in this whatsoever. I did sleep at a Holiday Inn Express a couple months ago, so I think that might work. I don't have studies to know that people make tons of conscious decisions on, a $70 investment for a year to watch. If you don't want to do that, you just watch for the season, you cancel it. It's not an annual subscription. So there are people that need to make those decisions that way. I realize that. And I hope that there are ways that if people are in a situation where they do need assistance, that we can figure out a way for them to watch. And I know that that's super important to me too, because I don't live in a fantasy land that, people can, have the luxury of being able to go do some things that people around me can, and that I see do on a regular basis. I realize that that's not the real world all the time. So, we're going to do everything we can to try to help.
I know it's a 5-year deal. So after, when I guess probably about 3.5, 4 years, probably looking at either renewing or what you might do next. What are some metrics you are looking for to say, hey, let's keep doing this for another 5 years after that?
Yeah, well, I think one of them is, are they interested in us? Mm-hmm. Right. So this is an experiment for Flow, and I get contractually things I don't think I can share, but I can say to you that I think they are, they're trying to grow the untouched market. And clearly, they wouldn't be doing this if it was in this altruistic kind of environment, right? It's not just Pollyanna. Hey, this is great. Let's make sure these people have a great. They're going to make money because they have a responsibility to the people that have invested in their company that they do that. I think in the end, we hope it's a win-win for everybody, that it continues to grow our viewership. I think part of the metrics will be viewership, comparison numbers. How do you define viewership? So a lot of times you can look at numbers, and we can look at numbers in our basketball tournament and tell you that, there were 4,000 views, right? Well, what I really want to know is how many unique IP addresses did I have, right? Because who watched for 5 minutes and got off? Who came back for 5 minutes? Who came back for 5 more minutes? And that's 3 views instead of just 1. So I think how we define viewership is going to be super important for us to know. In my opinion, it's who stays to watch the game. I mean, who's watching the game, the luxury of being able to hop on and off is something that I think people have had, and they may still have. If they pay for the subscription, they can do that whenever they want to. It'll be interesting to see what the average minutes are watched per game. I've seen statistics. It's basically 30 minutes, not from Flow. This came from a previous vendor that was showing us data. That's a good watch. So yeah, you guys kind of live more and I hate to say this because I'm in a little different generation than you are, but you live in a generation, right, where you're looking at things on the phone and you watch news that way. I mean, our kids don't watch television. They watch television if we watch television. They watch their computer or they watch their phone. And it's fascinating to me, for me, it's like, hey, let's settle down. It's 9 o'clock. I want to watch something on TV, and they're long gone on that. I mean, that's just not part of their world. So, I think I would say 2-3 years in, there'll be a look in. We have annual meetings. That's no secret. I can't reveal. I mean, we have annual meetings that we'll sit down with them and say, hey, how did it go? Are you happy? Are we happy? We'll have viewership numbers that we'll be able to look at. And I think all those metrics will factor in. I mean, and Was the system quality? Was the customer service good? When people had a problem, how much downtime did we have that was their responsibility? Listen, I will tell you guys before, and this is me saying this, before we had a game at the basketball tournament and we would test the system a half hour before and we were on somebody else's internet, right? And we're like, let's hope this works. They have somebody watching the game. And if something goes down, they have a Slack channel that they're communicating with the individual who's there, basically saying, hey, your audio's out. Hey, the system's down. Hey, you're frozen. What's going on there? The camera work is, you need to improve the camera. So there's a quality control there that before, I'm not going to say we just turned the TV, we just turned the camera on and walked away, right? Because I don't think that's true either. People have done a really good job. But I'm hoping that it enhances the accountability of us to provide a good product. Now, it's not going to be a 6-camera shoot. That's not going to happen, right? And that's just not going to happen. And but as the world kind of pivots to the streaming platforms, it'll be in my opinion, it'll be really interesting to see whether this first percentage of people. So we're at 9, almost 10. Let's say a quarter of Division III has made the move, right? What does the middle do? Because there's some that are on the other end of the bell curve that just aren't going to do it, right? That's okay. That's fine. But what does the middle do? Because the bulk of the bell curve is in the middle. So, you're basically a quarter, a half, a quarter. Let's say you're divided up in that. What does that 50% do in the next 2 years? And we'll see. I'm not exerting any pressure on anybody. If anybody asks me and called, I've had 2 people call me. How did it go? Can you walk me through the process? I'm trying to get our people on board. I think it's a value for us, and I try to help. But outside of that, everybody's had an independent kind of process to get to this stage, to get to the final decision, and everybody's decision is different, and the reasons why they did it are probably different. But there are also opportunities, I think, to get more kids involved on campus, to have a greater breadth of involving students, and to have a growth opportunity that not only provides opportunity for kids on campus, but to give a greater audience, hopefully, of people. Hey, I'm watching Flow, and what's the ODAC? I don't know anything about the ODAC, right? They're not gonna just stumble on it by getting on the internet, but they may stumble on it on the Flow app. So we're hoping that happens.
I could talk about this contract all day, but we'll transition to the football side since we're getting
to
the football
season.
Good. Yeah. So 9 teams again for this year. Ferrum leaves. You have Gallaudet in there. I think we talked a little bit about this last year about Gallaudet coming in, but what was the process of them coming in, and were you looking to stay at 8 conference games to, so you brought them in?
Yeah, well, 8 makes it easier, but it makes it harder because you have a bye week every week. You've got an institution off. So I think ideally, if we ever got into a situation, I think 8's the great spot to be in from a Division III perspective because it gives you 2 quality non-conference games you can play. You're comfortable with. They're on the front end of the schedule. If you're lucky enough to get somebody you can plug in on the bye week, hey, great. You take one of the first 2 weeks off. That's not ideal either. I think everybody wants to get up and running. We used to take week 3 off when we had the other setup, right? And everybody got a bye week in week 3, and then we started playing week 4 and played our way out when we had 7 league games. I mean, that's probably perfect. In a perfect world, if you could get games in that third non-conference game, life would be, we'd be in good stead, right? But it's hard to do. It's hard to find that third game because there are leagues around us that are bigger, that have agreements with competing with other leagues that are side by side to them, that they don't, they trade games in week 3. So there's just it's not a breadth of a depth of games that you could get. So we're there, and the Gallaudet thing was really it was happen chance more than it was anything else. I had talked to them many years ago when they were. People expressed interest with them. They're a very unique institution, and of course, if anybody wants to do a little deeper dive on Gallaudet, it's fascinating history, right? And the mission of what they do as an institution is amazing. So they came to us because they were in search of a football home because their league, the ECFC, had dissolved. It had kind of had members absorbed in other memberships. Of course, growth of D3 football, hoarding members to try to make sure that you have games. So Gallaudet was kind of left. They had stayed stead with their league, and in doing so, they pulled everything together. And they called us and said, we're interested. And again, I think our people haven't played them as frequently because they've kind of been in that Northern League where they played a lot of people that are a little bit northern than them. The footprint worked for them from a geographic standpoint. I mean, they're the northernmost member for us, but Shenandoah is a stone's throw away. I mean, Guilford's the furthest drive. That's probably not a great trip. You're only doing that every other year, either way for them, down or Guilford going north. So, I think for us, it was a quality institution that has a storied history in football. They created the huddle, for God's sakes. I mean, if you want to go back and do some reading about the history, and they had an AT&T commercial with a fancy helmet. I mean, how could you go wrong? No, their coach Chuck Goldstein just left. They've hired a new coach. Chuck had a lot of relationships with guys in our league and reached out, and of course their athletic director, and we've known their assistant athletic director Sam Atkinson for many years. So it was a good fit. And we'll see how it goes. I mean, they're picked last in the preseason poll. I don't know what people probably don't know a lot about what they have. At the same time, we'll see how their competitiveness fits in the league. They'll see the same thing as we move forward. And, we've got a multi-year agreement with them, and hopefully it's something that we can continue into the future. And Coach LaForce, I mean, what is he going to end up doing? I mean, here's a guy that was drafted in the 4th round of the NFL draft, for God's sakes. I mean, and what a great guy to talk to. I mean, and he has a fascinating story as well. Well worth a conversation. He's just seems to be a really good guy, and I think he'll be a great fit in our league.
And I failed to mention it. You basically have 2 additions.
Yeah,
you have a team already in the conference.
Super excited about it as well.
Yeah, but Roanoke, they played a JV schedule last year. I mean, they had a ton of fans there at their first JV game. I think it was like 9,000 fans. How excited are you to have them take on football and then hopefully have some success there in the ODAC?
Well, I think you have members that don't have it, and when you've had these in-depth conversations about the depth of the league when it comes to football and the need for games. I mean, to have somebody in the league at it doesn't get any better than that. And I just think they have done a masterful job of marketing their football in the Roanoke Valley. I spent a lot of time in Roanoke. My wife works in Roanoke every day, so I'm familiar with it. I lived there for 12 years. They've done an amazing job. I mean, people are talking about it. It's like last year, that game. I was at that game. I was one of the 9,000 people, and I just sat in the stands. I went to they had a reception beforehand. I didn't ask for anything. I walked in. I went and sat on the visitor side to watch the game. I sat beside a guy that played football at Emory and Henry that I hadn't, I don't know if I'd ever met him before, right? And we just had a great conversation. He didn't know who I was. I didn't know who he was until we started talking. And I mean, what a super environment. And can they replicate that? Boy, I don't know. I'd love to see it. I'm sure they'd love to see it too. But that was a new thing in town. It was perfect. It was a Sunday afternoon. It may have been it was a picture perfect day. I mean, it was a beautiful day. And I think they've got the right guy in place as a head coach. I think Coach Stadspring's a great guy. I think he's perfect for them to drive interest in that area. His tie to Virginia Tech, his tie at VMI. I mean, he's got a lot of things working in his favor in that footprint. And I think they're gonna be good. I mean, the coaches picked them 6, so we'll see.
When it comes to adding a program, for football or any sport for that matter, is there a certain list of criteria that y'all are using when it comes to adding a school to the conference?
Well, yeah, there's a list of things that you look for, and when you look for them. You look for, I mean, there's a lot of components. When you're having a conversation about an associate member versus a full sport member is a little bit different conversation. It's, you look at the quality of the program that they're bringing in. You look at the stability of the program. You look at the stability of the institution. I mean, those are all factors that I think you weigh when you do an associate member. And a lot of it's, we just had a conversation about associate member in an individual sport that had applied or at least expressed interest yesterday. And, I know the question the board's going to ask first, which is, what do the coaches think? Because they want to know. I mean, where does this group fit competitively? how will they fit with us? What's their program like? How do they run their program? Is this a quality group of student athletes? Are there issues, right? Have you competed against them? How did it go? What happened when you went there? I mean, what's there? So there's tons of questions that the coaches can ask because they're the boots on the ground, right? The athletic directors then will kind of ask more of the philosophical things. They'll talk more about the competitiveness. They'll talk more about how they fit. They'll talk about travel. They'll talk about how much it costs to get there. I mean, those are all factors they're going to work on. And then the presidents are going to talk about, institutional reputation. They're going to talk about association with the league, association with the institution, stability of the institution. Those are things that they're kind of sort through. So yeah, it's a pretty difficult. I mean, we don't make those decisions on a whim. And you also look for need. Like, do you need them? So oftentimes in an individual sport, it's an individual competitive environment. Team score comes out of it. Use swimming, for example. Use track and field, right? You might have somebody in swimming. It may not make as much of an impact as you would if you had somebody in associate membership in football, for example, where you got to play them every year. You got to go to them every other year. And in basketball, in some cases, you might have to go to them every year, right? So there's a lot to weigh. And I think our people have done a really good job of finding the right space. Oftentimes, going back years ago, when we've accepted people in as associate members, we split off from a championship in swimming and took 2 members because they had nowhere to go as an associate member. I mean, it had nothing to do at the time. I mean, they both had actually very vibrant programs, but it was like, hey, what are they going to do? Like, we were just swimming as a part of a group of schools, and we swam at Radford. When championship was at Radford, we scored out of the meet. And it's like, what are these other 2 institutions going to do? Let's take them, because we're trying to grow swimming. And in the end, they helped us get to grow men's swimming in the league. One of them did. They helped us get to a point where we now have 9 men's swimming programs that are amazing. Hell, and people go, oh, you've done a great job. No, I haven't. I haven't done anything. The only thing I've done is facilitate the fact that I give a platform for our institutions to continue to grow. And if you do it, we're going to try to make it work. Men's volleyball, great example. Did it last year, right? There are tons of people. Well, tons. That's an exaggeration. A couple of people that would love to be in the league for men's volleyball. We don't need it now. We've got our AQ number. We've got quality competition. I told those guys last year. You ask about what was a cool thing to watch last year. Deb, I'll tell you what it was. It was the men's volleyball championship. And I walked on the floor when it was over, and I said to both of the coaches, I was like, you got a new fan. I was like, that was awesome. And it was a great environment. So, that stuff's cool. And that's a great thing for me to come back to. I'm an idiot. I should have said it earlier. I mean, the growth of the sport and just what we've done in men's volleyball alone is a really cool thing.
Last couple for me. I keep going back to this, but SEC, we see where Sankey came out to his conference and said, hey, you guys are going to schedule 9 conference games and you got to play another Power 4 team, years to come. How much influence do you have over the teams and for football saying, hey, you got to schedule this, you got to do this for schedule, or do you stay out of it?
I totally stay out of it. I mean, they'll peer pressure or pressure themselves, right? They'll talk collectively and within a coaches meeting about competitiveness and bettering their chances to get more teams in the tournament. A lot of what we've done in the league over the last 10, 12 years, 15 years has been trying to help everybody from a scheduling perspective and help the people that are at the top that want to excel and move through the championship. How do we prepare them as much as we try to better the whole, right? They'll have their own conversation about that, but in the end, they're going to do what's right for their program. And in some cases, if you're in the bottom half of the league, what are you trying to do? You're trying to win, right? So we're not getting anything. Well, that's not true. We're getting some street cred and some national credibility, maybe some recruiting assistance by the fact that Randolph-Macon's been successful in football and has advanced for the semifinals, right? And then last year won a game and then lost at Salisbury. So we're getting something out of that because people are like, hey, well, that's a pretty good league. Well, I think I might want to go there and play. We're not getting the money that the SEC is getting by the fact that they're putting more teams in the playoffs, right? So there's a different thought process there. In the end, but ultimately, it was just, again, a lot of quotes from that meeting that I was just in. Hey, everybody around the table is competitive. Like, everybody wants to win. But winning and what it means and how you get there and who you have to beat to win, depending on where you are, is different. So that empathy question of trying to help everybody get better, I think we've done an exceptional job of that. And I think the football coaches, or any of them, the basketball coaches, are a prime example of conversations that we've had. We have 4 teams make it, like you said, on the men's side, right? And our women's basketball is great. I mean, WNL's made some great runs recently. They pressure themselves because they know how good our league is. And, I mean, if you're 8 or 9 in our league, you're still pretty darn good. And there's a chance you got a winning record, a winning overall record. So that says a lot about the strength of the league. It also says a lot about our coaches. We got some really good coaches. If I started with Brandon Elliott, I won't end the conversation with Brandon Elliott because he had the best. I mean, we got a ton of great coaches. We got a lot of good coaches. He's a great example of that, right? He's had a lot of success. So there are other people like that. I think that we're so fortunate to have that in all of our sports. And yeah, really good stuff.
Well, last one for me. We talked about this a little bit earlier, the Chesapeake Bowl Series. You guys have been partnered up with the Landmark, and I think this is maybe year 3 into the agreement. How do you think it's gone so far, and do you think this is something that you guys will continue to do in the future?
Yeah. So, we had an agreement, a 4-year agreement with the Landmark. It was home site neutral. So this year we're going home site. So our 2 seed will host, their 2 seed will host. In the 4th year, the idea is that it's neutral again. I'd love it to be back in Salem. I mean, I've told the commissioner of the Landmark that. I was like, hey, look, but it's your choice. If you find something up there that's comparable, that we can use for a reasonable fee, we can afford to pay for it and afford to be able to help the teams that are traveling offset their costs a little bit. That's great. I'd love to see it continue. I hope she does. I hope their institutions do. I mean, our coaches have wanted an opportunity, and we did this with the Newport News Apprentice before we went into the Landmark deal, where we played the Neptune Bowl at the Sportsplex in Virginia Beach, and our number 2 team played the Newport News Apprentice team. I think we did it for a couple of years. We had COVID messed it up in the middle, and then maybe we did it 1 year after that. And then this Landmark deal came together, and it's been a really cool thing. In fact, we just had our football coaches meeting like 2 weeks ago, and I think to a person, those that had participated in it loved it. Now, the Shenandoah coach, they didn't fare well last year in their game. They didn't win, right? I actually thought I didn't know what Wilkes and WNL were going to do. I thought that was kind of a contrasting style. And then I thought, well, man, Shenandoah's on a roll. I mean, they may really fare well. Well, it didn't turn out that way, right? And WNL won, and Shenandoah lost, and so we're 1-3. We're 1-3 in those games, and the Shenandoah coach, like on the Zoom meeting, it was great. The experience was great. Giving our kids an opportunity to play was great. Playing in Salem Stadium was great. We were going to play the national championship there in January 27 again. That place has hosted 26 national football championships. Pretty cool place to play. I mean, Salem High School gets to play there. Roanoke College gets to play there now all the time, which is kind of cool. But yeah, he loved it, and he lost. So, I mean, I think that says it all, that it was a good experience and something that we'll hope that we can continue into the future.
Last comment for me, since you mentioned Salem Stadium, I was looking at the recent D3 championship games. Attendance-wise, has not fared up to what they had in Salem from the 20 years they had it there. I hope it really does come back to Salem. I mean, I think like it was well attended. We went there, saw Mount Union play Mary Hardin Baylor. So I really hope that Salem gets it back. I hope you guys get to host it again.
Well, the new bid cycle is coming up. I think it's this fall. I imagine they'll put in it's a 3-year bid cycle. I imagine they'll put in and try to get it more than once if they could. I'm biased. I think it's a perfect size facility for it. I think the city embraces it. I think the city loves it. If there was more regularity of when it comes, I think that's part of our problem. We had the same teams over and over again. We had Mary Hardin Baylor and Mount Union. We had Mary Hardin Baylor and Wisconsin Whitewater, and St. Thomas was one that was a reoccurring theme there for a while before they went to Division I. And I think because of that, it lost its luster a little bit, not hosting it, but just for people around. It's the Stag Bowl's back again. I can just sit at home and watch it on ESPN. I don't need to go. People had Stag Bowl parties that didn't come to the game. And sometimes the weather was a little iffy. So having it back for the 50th, which was the North Central Cortland game where Cortland won, which was, by the way, one of the best football games I've ever seen. That was cool. I mean, there's no other better word to say. That was cool. And I think we all kind of got goosebumps doing it because that was what we started with. We started hosting all those championships in Salem. And so we get it back for the 26th season. So not this season, but next season. But it won't be until January. Let me tell you what, it ain't warm in Salem in January, right? So the difference in time for the game from December to January, almost a month, is going to be interesting, you know. And I think that's got to be a factor in how they make a decision about where they play it in the future. You know, I mean, I wouldn't go any further north than us. You know, I wouldn't think that's wise. Where do you go south? That you have a footprint that's better for Division III football than where we are that you can get to, right? And so, I mean, there's a lot of good things in Salem's favor because I think they'll do a great job with it. They're doing some improvements to the stadium. I think they're even putting up. Somebody told me they're putting up a video board. I don't know if that's true or not, but I hope it is because I think for the sake of help Roanoke College, it'll help Salem High School. I mean, that's Salem High School's field. I mean, it's a pretty good investment for the city for what they've done over the years with football. They've had a lot of success.
And one more before we get you out of here, Mr. Bankston. I know we've kept you. We said we are going to do 20 or 30 minutes, kept you for an hour, but I just want to ask, what are the upcoming goals for this coming up year, whether it's institutionally or competitively?
Yeah, well, I haven't talked about this since we've been on, but it's the 50th anniversary of the league. I mean, there's no cooler time to be a part of what we're doing than right now. So, I mean, our goal is the implementation of the flow contract. Without a doubt, we want that to go successfully. I think as I said, there are going to be some hiccups. We're going to have some issues. I think that's the first thing I would say. And then we just created the ODAC Hall of Fame. We had the inaugural class of the ODAC Hall of Fame that was just released on a week ago today. And that's been about the coolest thing that I've had an opportunity to work on in a while because I know a lot. I mean, I've been involved in this league for 30 years and I've known and seen a lot of the people that we are honoring. So we're gonna have a highlight every month where we're highlighting an institution, an individual, either through video, through podcast, through the written word, and just celebrate the league and celebrate what the league's been about, the history of the league. The rest of the stuff's going to take care of itself. I mean, I hope we knock it out of the park with championships. I think we will. I think we'll have great competition. We've got some really cool things and some really great places to host again. I want that to go well. I want that to go as well as it ever has. At the same time, I want to take a moment and celebrate the history of the league because that's a pretty cool thing. And of course, we do have the flow. We do have the flow contract that I know Greg wants to talk more about probably, but we've got that going on too, and we want to make sure that that rollout's as flawless as it can be.
Well, Commissioner, we thank you for your time. I know, like Devin said, it's been an hour. It was supposed to be 20
fun,
minutes.
man, guys. Listen, I love talking to you. I do this all the time, but there's not a lot of people that call me up to talk to me. I must be a pretty boring guy.
No, not at all. I'm just so interested in how you run a conference. I mean, you see it on the national level on the D1, but I want to see how it does on a D3. So we all appreciate you coming on here, and then we'll hopefully have you on here again soon, and then we'll see you at the ODAC tournaments, I'm sure, and whatnot. But Commissioner Brad Bankston of the ODAC conference, thank you, Commissioner. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate your coverage and the opportunity to be on with you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
We want to thank Commissioner Brad Bankston for coming on and talking not only about football, but the conference as a whole. District 2 Sports is thankful we've been able to build a relationship with this conference, with basketball and football and the commissioner himself. Mr. Bankston has done just a wonderful job with the conference and has elevated the conference to one of the best all-around conferences in D3 athletics. We'll have our ODAC football preview on Friday with 4 schools to lead off, and we hope to have the others on as well. We'd love to talk to them and kind of get their preview. The football season kicks off this Saturday, or actually starts Thursday, the 4th, with a couple games and a game on Friday. And yeah, Saturday's the big one with most schools playing that day. Like and subscribe if you have not yet. Please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Our Instagram game is still slacking, but we'll get on that soon and beef it up a little bit. If there's an interview you want to hear, let us know or have them reach out to us. We're always welcome to you guys' advice or just your feedback. So let us know.
But yeah, we thank you guys for listening and helping us achieve over 10,000 listens. We couldn't have done this without you. We do appreciate you guys, and I hope you all have a great day.